Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to Pitch Perfect, a show where we deep dive into the stories, ideas, solutions that are shaping the future of revenue teams. I'm your host, Snehal, co-founder and CEO of Meet Record. Today we have an incredible guest joining us. Please welcome Elda Shawil, a senior sales development leader at Deal. Elda is a highly driven, goal-oriented sales leader with an impressive journey across top companies like Deal, Slack, DocuSign. Today, she leads a global outbound sales team at Deal, helping fuel through enablement, strategic prospecting, and a culture-first leadership approach. Uh, Beyond her numbers and accolades, which are plenty for sure, Elda's true superpowers lie in her empathy, her passion for developing others, and her ability to make real impact wherever she goes. Elda, we are really, really thrilled to have you with us today. Welcome to the Pitch Perfect.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here.
So let's rewind a bit. What pulled you in the world of sales, and what are the pivotal moments that have shaped you and your leadership?
Yeah, initially when I first got into sales, I have the cliche story of I didn't know what I wanted to do with my career, and I had a friend at that time suggest that I should check out this one sales role and see if I would like it. They thought I had the right characteristics and qualities to be good at it, and plus it would give me an opportunity to really just like learn what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And once I joined that role, I just instantly fell in love with it. I think for me, I love that high performance culture. I love the competition. But ultimately, as well, like once I actually got myself pretty developed and I would say pretty good at what I was doing, I loved the idea of helping others do the same.
Awesome. So, what excites you about actually building and leading in the crazy world of sales, right? So you like helping others, but what sort of motivates you to actually lead teams in this is crazy world, right? Where we are seeing AI is coming in and so on.
Yeah, I think part of the fun is how much things change in sales. I think there's always something that keeps you on your toes, is what I always tell everyone. I feel like even with AI, everything is developing so quickly. So there's always something to learn. And I am a learner. I love reading. I love trying to figure everything out around me. So I think that's like really something that drives me within sales and what I enjoy the most of also being a leader in sales. I love making the people around me love what they do and figure out their own love for sales, which is why I love the SDR side of things.
Awesome. So you want to like inspire every salesperson individually at their level so as to motivate them. Very, very interesting. So so Deal is present across geographies, right? And let's say North America is one of the most challenging geographies over here, right? So how are you sort of ensuring that your sales teams are trained in the challenging environment? Because I'm sure there are multiple competitors of yours which are based in Europe, in India, in Asia, and so many places. So how do you actually ensure that your SDRs win in the North American market?
Yeah, I think every region is so unique. With North America, obviously, we know there's a lot of competition and lots of noise. So it's really about like how do we make our messaging, how do we make our talk track stand out in comparison to some of our competitors, which is something that we really work closely with our SDRs on, is just learning ways to make their prospecting and outreach a little more unique, especially in a world where everything is so automated right now. I know myself, like I'll be on LinkedIn and I get a message and I can clearly tell it was automated sent to me. And I think for me, it's all about like how can we be authentic? How can we show up as ourselves in this world? Because I think that's what's missing right now from a lot of outreach is that there isn't much of that human element of who that person is when they're outreaching to you. So I think for us, it's been really working for us because we have that human touch and that personalization.
Yeah, so you touched upon a bit about the automation aspects. We know all companies are there who are promoting AI SDRs, right? We are there are like automation tools which are crafting personalized messages, which are landing in your LinkedIn inboxes, everyone's LinkedIn inboxes, and so on, right? I'm just wondering, like, how has the hiring also changed over time? Because these tools are there. Even I also think even people are generally evolving. Right now, most of the people who would be joining sales teams, younger sales teams in SDR, BDR roles would be Gen Zs and so on. So how do you actually hire right now? How has the hiring basically evolved over the last 3 to 5 years for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because a few years ago, if you asked me this, I'd say like ideally our candidate has some level of sales development experience before joining. But I think right now a lot of it is based more on the soft skills side of things. I want to know if someone's coachable, they take feedback well, they like to get feedback. I want to know, are they someone who is naturally curious? I think curiosity is one of the most important skills to be successful in sales. It's not really so much of like, do you have 1 to 2 years of experience before joining us? It's more so just like, who are you as a person? What motivates you? Are you a naturally curious person? Because that's what will make you be successful right now. And like you mentioned, there is a lot of tools that have come out lately with that are automated that do help the SDRs develop a little bit faster, I would say. But those soft skills are much more challenging to coach on, and those will never be replaced by AI.
Uh, you mentioned about checking for coachability. How do you actually check that in an interview, right? I'm always curious because we also hire multiple SDR and BDR folks, but that is something we found. I mean, I personally found very difficult to actually check in a 30-minute sort of a call. How do you check whether, this particular candidate is coachable, this one is not?
Yeah, good question. I think part of it is just seeing, like, hearing from them on different experiences that they've had from their past roles that they've been in, and just trying to gather some information over maybe some of their lowest points and how they overcame it. And just hearing words like, I asked for feedback, and this is what I received, and this is how I changed based on it, instead of just the typical of like, I did a Google search and this is what it told me I should do. Just trying to hear more about like how did they implement real life feedback into their job, I think is key. Number two is during our interview process, we do have a case study. During that case study, I do make it a point to give them feedback and see how they implement it live on the call. And I think for me, that really shows me whether or not they're receptive to the feedback, which ultimately means they're coachable or not.
Awesome. I really like the case study aspect of it, and also looking for general signals like whether it's like what are they action driven, are they asking, are they curious, and so on. And so after hiring, right, next comes onboarding, right? Do you have an onboarding playbook in place? What does the day 1 to day 30 onboarding sort of look like for you?
Oh, there's so many things that I can say here. We do have an onboarding playbook in place. We have an onboarding team on my end, which really helps us out as managers, because we do have a set team of people that will help us with some of the more um, basic, high level parts of the job, whether that be the product, learning a little bit more about that. I think that is really important within the first 30 days is learn the product, learn our tools, get to know some of the high performers on the team and learn what they're doing so that ultimately like within those 30 to 60 days, they're implementing what those high performers have been doing.
Awesome. So, we are trying to, our solution essentially tries to figure out what are the best practices, how are the best folks in your team actually closing deals, and the solution tries to find, and replicate those best practices across your team by creating customized scorecard. We recently added something called a role play agent, and that's very interesting. So what it does is it creates a digital twin of your buyer. So imagine, before you go on that $100,000 deal, you can just practice with that role play agent where we replicate the exact voice of the buyer, the personality of the buyer, and it matches with the personality that you have, and it will have questions which you have been coached on over the last 1 month. What do you think about such new AI agentic tools coming up, especially the role play agent? Would you be interested to try out something? How, are you trying out something right now?
I love that. Yeah, we do have something somewhat similar right now, and I think it's so valuable for teams to have because role playing. I do make it a point to try to role play with my team as consistently as possible, but that does require obviously like we're blocking out a part of our week for it. And they role play with other colleagues as well. But ultimately, like having those role playing bots that will role play with you right before, like, let's say a call blitz, you're jumping on a call blitz for 9 a.m. and you're going to be dialing for an hour, getting yourself in that rhythm with that bot for maybe like 20 minutes of just doing a couple rounds with them really just puts you in the rhythm. So I think that's an awesome tool to have.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so it basically so many folks who come from, let's say, different backgrounds. I have come from, say, a product or engineering background, and I have to often talk to customers. So I use this tool to just familiarize myself with the different strategies, the different way of pitching, and so on. And I'm sure it'll be interesting for a lot of new let's say people who are getting ramped up in sales to quickly try out different strategies, learn about how your best reps are doing, and so on. Correct. So, like, what is that one outbound tactic? You mentioned a few, the personalized touch, and so on. So, but apart from that, which other outbound tactic you think SDRs should use more today and they are ignoring right now?
Oh, I think LinkedIn has this, and my team probably is annoyed over how much I say this to them, but I think LinkedIn has this untapped potential that not everyone has really uncovered. And I think that's just because we don't have a lot of automated tools yet for LinkedIn that help you with your, automating your connection requests and automating your messaging. So I think ultimately a lot of SDRs have just kind of stepped back and are using more of that call and email approach because it's a bit easier. But I have just noticed such a high conversion with LinkedIn, especially when you're going into those messages as if it's just a casual conversation. You're starting it off with like a one or two liner. You're asking a question to open up a conversation. I do believe that if SDRs are doing more of this, they'll see a huge uptick in how much they're converting over LinkedIn.
Interesting. So, I mean, looking back, what is that one advice you would give to your younger self? The Elda who joined sales teams on day one. But like, what would you actually give advice to yourself?
Great question. I would tell myself to not doubt myself that this is going to be the most life-changing journey because it was for me. So really just not to doubt myself and put full confidence into everything that I'm doing and just to fully just like dive into development and see where things can go because it will be life-changing.
And what do you think, like two or three habits which every salesperson or an SDR should have in today's time to build a very tough mindset? Because I believe it's very competitive. There are, prospects reaching your or there are competitors reaching your buyers at all the time, right? So what sort of two or three habits one should inculcate in today's time as an SDR?
Yeah, one is consistency. That I would say is the most obvious one. If you stay consistent, regardless of all the rejections, eventually it will work. Something will bite and it will work out for you. Number two is just having the mindset of like, you're not just a salesperson, you're there to help people and you're more like, try to view yourself as more of a consultant where it's not just because you got to know, it doesn't mean that it was a bad conversation. You also learned a lot and you were able to also educate that prospect on a lot of things. So I would say like those are the two mindsets that I would suggest for SDRs to have.
Awesome, awesome. But so deal is so let's say remote is sort of in the DNA of deal, right? To structure it better. You're helping companies stay remote. You're helping companies hire teams from different countries. By the way, I know you're focusing on the North America, US market, but do you have your sales teams across geography? And how do you see basically the remote sales teams evolving right now in today's time?
Yeah, so my team in particular is just based in North America, but we
Mhm,
do have sales teams all across the globe.
mhm.
I think Deal has just really opened up a world where we've seen it work, where being remote is totally possible and being productive while being remote is 120% possible. We know that, we see it. And we've just done such a great job at building the culture here where it almost sometimes I forget that I don't see my coworkers every single day in real life just because how close I am with every single person. We've created such a bond. And I think ultimately I do give the credit to Deal and its senior execs for building such a strong culture and dynamic across the sales team.
Yeah, it's actually amazing the culture that you have built. I'm sure it would have been a challenging thing, but it's an amazing work, right? You mentioned about like while hiring SDRs, soft skills is one thing you stress on particularly, right? So, how does it fit in the modern sales playbook right now? Because when I see folks, they start talking about tools, they start talking about we're trying out Clay, we're trying out XYZ, and so on, and the whole conversation or 90% of the conversation is just about that. So where do you see soft skills fitting in? How can a new salesperson actually get better at it or practice now in today's scenario?
Yeah, I think ultimately, no matter what tools you have, no matter if you have the best tools in the market to help your team out, if they don't have certain soft skills, it's just not going to work for them. They're not going to see the results that they want if they don't have that natural sense of curiosity and drive. If they don't have that willingness to go out and learn new things, if they don't have that empathy with their prospects, then naturally they're going to see a decline in conversion. It doesn't matter what tools they have. It doesn't matter what any enablement is provided to them. Ultimately, if they do not have those soft skills, I do think that it's going to be very hard to be successful.
Yeah, I agree. So, Elda, we are at the final stage of our podcast, the final section. It's a quick rapid fire round. Which book recently that you have read has actually changed how you think about sales leadership?
The book I recently read, I would say, is Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek.
Oh,
Hopefully, I pronounced that right. That
yeah,
one
yeah,
was a
yeah.
good one.
Yeah, yeah. What's that one particular insight you remember
Yeah,
from the
I
book?
think it's just more like if you really care about your team's well-being and if you care about them doing well, like you really truly as a leader um, focus and prioritize your team over yourself sometimes, it ultimately creates a much happier team. Your team's performing a lot more, and ultimately, like you as a leader are going to be a stronger, much stronger leader that way. So I think that really stood out to me because I do try to lead with empathy in my current role every day.
Awesome. Putting your team first, so it is. What's your favorite productivity hack today?
Micro breaks. I have a really hard time taking long stretches of breaks. Even like I'm still trying to get better at this, but even just eating lunch is really hard sometimes because things do get busy or I get distracted and I'm like adding things to my plate. And then I'll just look at the time and it's 6 hours later. So I think like practicing micro breaks has been really helpful for me for productivity, like just being able to every like maybe 45 minutes, I get up for 5, 10 minutes. I'll go hug my dog. I'll go for a walk, whatever it is. But ultimately that has helped me so much with productivity because I don't burn myself out after a few hours. I'm my energy is there all day because I am taking these like 5, 10 minute just pauses through my day to just stretch, hug my dog, walk.
Awesome. So it's like giving some time to yourself to register past things, to switch your context, right? I mean, it's just so difficult to switch context in back-to-back meetings. Like, do you manage that in calendar or you just have it now inbuilt in yourself?
Yeah, I try to make it a point to, as much as I can, include little gaps in my calendar. But ultimately, I do manage a lot of it myself. But I've just built this habit inside of me to just know when it's time to get up.
Okay, this is a tough one. So, like one word your team would use to actually describe you.
Ooh, that is a tough one. I wish I could ask them. Um, I would say my team would. I go back to that empathy. I think my team would describe me as an empath.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Elda. I mean, thanks for the insightful stories and the energy, and basically telling in even in today's time to actually be empathetic towards your prospects, your buyers, and towards your team as well, right? So it was really amazing to chat with you and learn about how sales leaders are operating in today's time. We'll catch you next time. Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.